All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. Today we're heading back out to Dallas, Texas to talk with Logan Stout from the Dallas Patriots. We had Logan on I can tell you an exact date, on April 8th, 2019, so almost 2 years ago, Logan. Welcome back. How you doing, man?
Doing well, thanks. I can't believe it's 2 years ago.
I know.
I think we've all been locked up in our homes, and I don't know.
No doubt.
I'm kidding, but not kidding.
No, wait. Did I say two? No, excuse me. We're in 2022. It's almost 3 years ago to April 2019. So I can't even do public math, which is a pretty solid rule, is just to avoid public math. So I want to just point people to, for those of you listening at home, if you're in the travel ball community, hopefully you're at least a little bit aware of the Dallas Patriots. If you're not, you probably will be as you get into the older age groups and you run into the Patriots at the big tournaments that they're winning. Beyond baseball, Logan's into a little bit of everything. I used to do little teeny write-ups kind of post-episode, and what I wrote about Logan was roughly that he's a serial entrepreneur, which is 100% accurate. And he's been really highly successful in both baseball and business. The last show, which was at playinschool.com/stout, which if you don't know Logan, if you do know Logan, I would encourage you to go back and listen to that. This is how I describe that show. We spent a lot of time talking about leadership, time management, mentors, daily routines, and all that was before we ever talked about travel baseball. So it was one of those shows that was like, pull the yellow legal pad out, get a pen, and be ready to take some notes. So go learn more about Logan there. Today we're going to try to catch him up on our new format 3 years later, where I've got some standard questions, and we're going to try and go into those. But before I do, Logan, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, brother. I'm actually, as we're recording this here, it's a snow day in Dallas, Texas, if you can believe that. We have snow, which is rare.
How much?
And, in Dallas, there's snow. We don't.
I mean, is it like a dusting?
Oh, there's snow.
Is it?
Yeah,
is it like?
It's considering it was 72 degrees, 36 hours ago.
Yeah.
And now it's snowing. It's I don't know. It's probably a few inches out there so far already. So it's good. But I'm good, man.
And
Businesses are good. My kids are good. Wife's great, and the Patriots are doing great. So it's very blessed, and appreciate you having me on.
The kids get. I mean, with like half an inch of snow, or even the threat of snow, they cancel all schools out there.
Oh my! They canceled school when it was 46 degrees and the thought of snow.
Yeah, I got you.
It's hilarious. All my friends in the Northeast, it's comical how people in Dallas, it's.
Well,
you go to the grocery store. There's no food left. It's like they think the world's coming to it.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
It's going to literally be 12 hours, and then it'll all be melted and move along back to your normal life. We had like a rain out the other day here. That we got early dismissal, and it was raining. So
where do you live again?
Richmond, Virginia. I mean, we get snow. We've had snow like I think maybe 4 of the last 5 weekends, and so we get snow. But I think they pulled the trigger a little early on that one. But it happens. Before we get too far, I want to make sure I point everybody. So first, over to playinschool.com/stout for that other conversation. Your website where they can find everything they need to know about you is loganstout.com, and Twitter at Logan Stout, and then obviously the Dallas Patriots. But I'll also want to give you a chance to talk about your GM, who we had on the show back in 2021, October of 2021, Alex Barra. You brought in Alex. Well, what's it been now? A couple years. Tell us, the 60-second version of how you brought Alex in to run sort of the day-to-day for the Patriots.
Yeah, man, we've had it's 23 years running now, and I don't run the day-to-day. I started the Patriots, own the Patriots, but I do it because it's a passion, and we can get to that later when you ask the questions. But I'm always looking for good men of integrity that want to grow and want to make a difference and want to add value and maintain our core values that the Dallas Patriots stand for. And Alex was on staff at LSU for 12 years. Of course, Paul Maneri is a friend, and he retired. But Alex was on staff in the athletic department for 12 years, and basically he'd moved here to the Dallas-Fort Worth area and was coaching. And I met him through another one of our coaches. And I'm always looking to try to bring on incredible men to the organization because, the right coaches and the right leaders pretty much solve all problems. And, a lot of the kids, I call them kids, the guys that I had coached were the ones sort of running the day-to-day. Well, they're all growing up and having kids. One of the main guys, he actually took a professional hitting job, working with Major League Baseball players. And, another guy went to coach college baseball, which is great. We're helping them accomplish their goals and dreams. And so Alex was a unique deal where this is what he wants to do. This is what he's great at doing. And so he's just doing a phenomenal job. I mean, it's really mind-blowing all he's accomplished in less than 2 years. And not only Alex, but, Justin Pipak, our vice president of operations, and, Jake. I mean, the whole crew. The whole crew is – the Patriots are better today than they've ever been. And that's a credit to the guys that, God's blessed us with, quite frankly. I mean, it's awesome. And so we're doing great. Alex is doing phenomenal, and we're ready for baseball season.
Good. And make sure you tell him I said hello. Did I catch it correctly? Did you say you founded the Patriots 23 years ago?
23 years ago, started the Dallas Patriots. Yeah,
but you're only like 32. So how's that math work out?
Yeah, well, it's my ID Life. It's all my nutrition products.
Love it.
I'm definitely not 32. It's hilarious when you have kids that you coached, and now I'm coaching their kids. That's when, it's funny. I worked out this morning. You get on the treadmill and you put your age, and you got to keep filtering down to get to your age. I missed the day when my age was on the first page of the first screen. It is what it is. But age is a number, and I don't feel old. That's a good thing.
Well, it's kind of funny because in the last 2 weeks, I had something happen here on the podcast that I was not anticipating. And it happened the first time. I was like, wow, that's unique. That'll probably be the first and last time. And then it happened again like a week later. And that's a kid that I filmed in the past is now owns and runs his own program. And one of them is up in Texarkana. That's Brett Usry with Texas Freedom. And he's starting up a post-grad up there in that northeast corner, I guess, of Texas, Twin City. So be on the lookout for Brett. I think he even dropped your name in that conversation. Either I don't know if it was when we're recording or after, but he mentioned that he knows you. I'm sure everybody in the baseball world in Texas knows you. But then it happened again. So I've had two kids that I filmed like 7, 8, 9 years ago who are now running their own programs, and I'm just like, I'm glad I'm glad, but also I'm old. So, awesome. And by the way, we'll put the link to Alex's conversation on the podcast over on the show notes as well. But that's at playinschool.com/B as in boy ARRAS. If anybody wants to go find that, I'll also link to it. But all right, so we had a longer conversation a couple years ago, and I told you I'm going to be respectful of your time. I know you got a couple more calls after this one, so let's just jump into it. I don't think I've had to say this before. So first question, it's kind of a softball, but you never know. It's what book or movie or website, any sort of resource, but I'm going to change it for you. I'm going to say, what book besides your own should every coach? I've never had to say that part before. What book besides your own should every coach?
I'm not going to promote my own books that I've written.
Never know. Never know.
Well,
we can give it a plug. We can give it a plug.
But I'd be lying. That wouldn't answer your question. Your question was if I could pick one.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you asked me?
Yeah.
I'm going to give the answer. I'm going to give you two answers. The first answer, I'm going to say it because again, this is my opinion. This is my views on life. But the first book everybody should read is actually a collection of books, and it's the Bible. And whether someone's a Christian or not a Christian, religious or not religious, no one can refute that Jesus is the greatest leader of all time. And the reason I say that is because he has the most followers, right? I always joke around, even people that don't believe in him, and I have friends that don't believe in him. I am a Christian, but I have friends that aren't. And, I think, quite frankly, I think Christians are the reason a lot of Christians, turn other people off of the faith, because they miss the whole point. It's to love people, not judge people, to connect with people, not go around correcting people. And so for me, you look at the life of Jesus, and I was talking to a buddy of mine actually recently about this, and he goes, man, I'm just struggling with this whole concept of Jesus and even God. And so he's like, he's an atheist or agnostic. And I said, well, nobody can refute that Jesus is the greatest leader of all time. He goes, well, how can you say that? I said, well, two reasons. One, you don't even believe in him, yet we're talking about him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I said, number two is over 2,000 years ago that, he was crucified. Still to this day, the Bible is the number one purchased book in the world. And to this day, it's the number one stolen book in the world. And nobody can, it's interesting, right? And no one can refute the leadership of Jesus. Whether you want to believe that he died on the cross or not, whether you want to believe in God or not, that's not the point. The point is, it is the point, but it's not the point in that there's great leadership lessons in there, right? About how to lead people, how to communicate, how to love, how to serve, and truly he's the definition of leadership. So that's the first answer. The second answer I would say is anything related to personal growth, personal development. And here's what I'm noticing. Again, I've done this for 23 years. I'm old enough to be a lot of these guys who are coaching and travel ball and stuff called dad. And what I'm seeing is they're so focused on the business development aspect. Okay, so hear me. There's personal growth, personal development, then there's business growth, business development. Business development is learning stuff like mechanics and analytics and swing playing and better ways to run bases, right? Just coaching stuff, right? Those are all tactical things that, yes, you should be learning, no doubt. But you don't win because of those things. And this is what people don't understand. When I look at my buddies, Tim Corbin or at Vanderbilt or, Brian O'Connor at Virginia, Schlossnagle now at A&M. I mean, you look at these guys that go to the College World Series year after year after year after year after year after year after year, okay? They're not doing it because they've mastered the coaching analytics and data and techniques of all that. Yes, they have all that stuff. They have all those tools in their tool belt. But what separates true champions is they have a commitment to personal growth and personal development. I mean, like Brian O'Connor, University of Virginia, brings me on, and I do Zooms for his entire coaching staff and teams on personal growth. Okay, he's spending time pouring into his kids because here's the simple thing people have to understand. When you grow everything around you grows. Period. And so when you grow yourself as a leader, right, you're going to grow in wins. You're going to grow your facility. You're going to grow your number of teams because you're becoming a better version of yourself, and that attracts the right people and repels the wrong people. And so it's so important for everybody listening. I am where I am today. I don't say this to be arrogant. I've won 26 World Series titles, national champion, 26. And I can promise you there are people that study the tools of baseball more than me. I promise they do. Right? My focus is growing these young men that God has entrusted me to coach. If I can grow them and help them have a better outlook and help them understand perspective and help them truly believe in not only themselves but their teammates and truly have a bigger vision for their baseball career and a bigger vision for their lives, we're going to win. We're going to win. And that's the most overlooked thing I see. You look at the ABCA conference, right? And I told the guy I was supposed to speak at it, I guess 2 years ago, and they had to cancel it. Went virtual. But, we need to pour into our coaches. We need to grow our coaches so they become better leaders. Listen, being a coach is tough, especially if you're going to be in travel ball and all this stuff. Listen to me. You got to be a great husband. You got to be a great dad, right? Or you're going to end up having a tough relationship, right? Or not having one at all. And it's just really, really important that we have to understand baseball is going to come and go at some point in time. It just is at some point, right? Father time always wins. The batting percentage is still 1,000 on people that die, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, when you're on your deathbed, right? When you're on your deathbed, the statistics go out the window. Launch angle goes out the window. How hard someone threw goes out the window. When you're on your deathbed, there's going to be things that matter more. And the faster we can do life together now with that perspective, looking at the end in mind, the better the game's going to be, because the better the people in the game are going to be. And therefore, we're going to continue to grow future generations of people and thereby grow the game. Instead you get on, and I'm on social media. I think the key is use social media. Don't be used by social media. And I hope anybody listening will connect with me. I'm always available. I check on my own DMs and all that stuff. But it's amazing to see the immaturity on social media. Just the flat out disrespect and immaturity on social media. It's unbelievable to me. And I promise when you're dead, people aren't going to. I wish I would have gotten in an argument on Twitter yesterday. Nobody cares.
Hey, I got you wound up, and you went running off. Was there a specific book on personal development that's top of mind? That's
different books hit people differently, right? Different books hit people differently. I think rather go to the authors, right?
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with John Maxwell.
Yep.
Beyond Talent is a book everybody should read. One of my favorite quotes in there is "Character protects your talent." I love that quote. I've never forgotten it. I've repeated it over and over again. The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, phenomenal book by John Maxwell. And for those that don't know John is regarded as the number one leadership expert of all time. I mean, here's a funny story, not to name drop, but Shaquille O'Neal is a friend, and he was in my office, and we were just talking, and he saw my John Maxwell book in my office. He goes, "John Maxwell," he said, "Logan, you know that John Maxwell is the reason I graduated college?" I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yep. I read that man's books, and it inspired me." And I said, "You know what? I'm getting a college degree." He goes, "Man," he goes, "I would love to meet John Maxwell one day." And so I text John. I go, "John, I'm sitting here with Shaq. He told me this cool story about you. Are you available real quick so I can FaceTime you so Shaq can tell you this?" And he texted back. He goes, "I'm in Guatemala. Are you serious?" I go, "I'm 100% serious."
Unbelievable.
And so my point is this: I'm letting you know about Shaq. I'm letting you know about Shaq because there may be people on here that don't know who John Maxwell is.
Yeah.
But they know who Shaq is.
Yeah, I know who
Shaq
is.
To say something like that is pretty strong. But listen, I think there's different books that impact people differently. Yeah. I think the key with any book is you take the meat and potatoes, spit out the bones, right? Mm-hmm. So, some books I devour, and there's some books I really struggle to find some value in it, right?
Yeah.
But there's always something you're going to gain from it. And for people that don't like to read, you're lying. You read social media every single day.
Yeah.
So don't act like you don't read, right? And so I would encourage people to definitely dive into that. If anybody wants to DM me and ask specifically about some books, I'll be happy to send them some personal ones. In fact, my website, Rich, I have a bunch of suggested books on there on Logan.
Oh, there you go.
There's a bunch of them that have impacted my life and quite frankly, changed my life. So.
Well, at some point in time, I adjusted the question because it used to be just, hey, what book should people be reading? Should coaches be reading? And then I realized I look at myself and I go through different seasons of life. I've got a 6-year-old. There hadn't been a ton of reading the last few years. That it just happens. I read. Actually, I'll take that back. I read every single day, but it's little kid books. That's what I read. I read little kid books to my little kid. But as far as what I'm into and what I'm consuming is not a ton of books for myself. It's just that season of my life. So I changed it, and I've had some people who have given some unbelievable ideas from movie perspectives, websites, apps, anything like that. But I got to say, I did 100+ episodes already of this podcast, and it wasn't until about a couple of weeks ago that somebody mentioned the number one best-selling book of all time. And now, in just a couple of weeks, I've had it mentioned twice. So there must be a trend to this book called the Bible.
There's no way somebody can read that and not be impacted.
Yeah.
There's no way. I mean, you're going to be. I mean, I didn't believe. I didn't believe till I was 17 years old, and I read the Bible front to back. And yeah, there's some. There were some chapters in there, some books in there that were tough to read. Leviticus and stuff. But I just tell people start with the New Testament if they want. Start with Matthew and read through there, and it will flat out change the way you view the world, no doubt.
It's a tough format, man. It's a big book with little very small font, and it's
they have new ones now, Rich. They have new ones. They have new versions.
No,
the new standard version. They have new versions that aren't the King James. The King James version, I can't read that. The thou shalt, thou. I can't read that.
I've had come across my feed from time to time. There's more easily consumable versions where it's not 700 pages thick.
It's actually not that hard when you read the version that makes sense. You know, okay. I use the NIV. It's simple. It uses real words. You know, versus
okay.
the old King James.
All right.
But anyway, yeah. No, I mean, like, listen. I'm not here to throw religion on people. You asked me a question. I answered it honestly. It changed my life, and I think every human being, regardless of your views on life, will benefit from it.
Yeah. Man, I appreciate that. Let's look at this next question. This one, and I told you this before we hit record. This is one of those questions I feel like some of the answers are kind of repetitive, and I feel like sometimes that bums me out. And then I sit and go, wait, if all these really good coaches are saying the similar sort of things, maybe that's really good for some young coach or some young kid to hear over and over and over again. So I'll read the question. What regret or failure changed the way you coach for the better? Does anything come to mind?
Whew. Well, there's one, but there's not a whole lot of substance to it. And then there's another one that I'll share. The first one is just, you know, I got overused. I was a shortstop, right-handed pitcher, and so they overused me, no pitch counts, and ended up my arm got hurt at the age of 12, and it never fully recovered, and I had to retire on the disabled list, you know, in the minor leagues. And, you know, the regret would be if somebody would have taken care of my arm, imagine what I could have done, right? And so that's why I'm so, you know, stringent on pitch count and how many games we play in a year, how many throws we're making in practice. I just want all these kids' arms to be healthy. The second answer I would give you, it's not really a regret. I wouldn't say it's a regret. It would be a learning moment.
Yeah.
When I had my own children, I've got twin 9-year-olds, and they're very young, you know, based on my wife and I's age, obviously. But there's a lot of things that say, if I knew then what I know now, right? And everybody listen to this. You can probably look back to a period in your life, whether it's junior high, high school, college, and you can say, man, if I knew then, what I would tell a younger me would be X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah.
And the biggest thing I've grown and gotten better at, I'm very, my expectations are unwavering with my players, right? So they know the 5 rules to playing for me. They're non-negotiables. You will not violate these rules. And that everybody's treated equally, even though players are not all the same. You're going to be treated equally, and these are the ground rules. And I go over them when I'm talking to them before I ever offer them a contract. And so they know the playing rules, they know the ground rules, they know what they're signing up for, right? But where I've improved after having children is compassion.
Yeah. And
I've really learned how to have compassion for every single. You know, I was a college coach, right? So you go from professional baseball, college baseball. You know, and I didn't have kids back then, right? So, you know, you're trying to win games, right? That's how you pay your bills.
Yep.
You win games, right? And if you don't win, you lose your job. And, you know, when you get into travel ball, the biggest piece of advice I'd give people is you never know what that kid's going through. You don't know what his home life is like. You may be the only father figure in his life. You don't know if his parents were just diagnosed with a disease or illness or cancer. You just don't know. And so for me, I've just really learned, and if I could go back in time, what I would change is I would just really emphasize love and compassion for your players, because they all have a personal story that the world doesn't know about. They all have their own insecurities and doubts and fears. And then how you parlay that to your team is I now have a rule. I never take a player on my team that doesn't have a defined role, right? So in college, you got 35 guys on a Division I roster, let's say. Well, there's guys that don't have a role. They're going to be redshirted. It just is what it is. But what I love about travel ball, what I love about it is, and it's funny because I probably will get back into college coaching. But what I love about travel ball, you can limit your roster size, and you can make sure every kid has a role. And for me, I want every kid to know I love them, that I value them, and that I'm here for them for life. I tell every player that plays for me, when your career's done, I'm here for you. You can work at one of my companies. You can come back and coach the Patriots. Whatever you want to do, you always have a home here with me. And I don't know that I was that loving and compassionate prior to having my own kids because I didn't have that perspective on life. And it just changes everything, you know, because now my kids' friends, I know what they're going through. I know when one of their parents, you know, is diagnosed with cancer or they get laid off from work. Mm-hmm. And it just, you start to see things through a different lens as a coach when you realize, hey, these parents, because let's face it, baseball's expensive. And for a lot of these parents, paying for a $300 bat is so stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So stressful. And so,
do you?
Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I think it does. But do you take it to the real world for a second? Do you, when you see a kid who's maybe off a little bit, do you pry? Do you or simply try to give him an opportunity to maybe bring it up and explore why he's off that day, so that you just straight up say what's going on?
Yeah, I'll pull him off the side and say, "Hey, buddy, you doing okay, man? You don't seem like yourself."
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they'll, something's wrong when they look away. They look away and go, "I'm good, coach."
Yeah. And
then I just say, "No, you're not. Talk to me, man.
Yeah.
What's wrong?" I just think coaches, we got to realize, man, we may be the only voice that kid feels comfortable talking to. And, and it's not just the kids, it's parents. I mean, there's a dad of one of the kids on my kid, I coach my 9-year-olds also. And so there's a dad on the teams, and he just wasn't himself. I just noticed him. And so I just called him the next day. I said, "Hey, buddy, you doing okay?"
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "Yeah. Did my son do something wrong?" I said, No, this isn't about your son at all. I noticed your body language has been a little different. Are you doing okay?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Man, I really appreciate you reaching out." He goes, I'm about to leave my job, and it's just really stressful because I'm the one who pays the bills for the family, and it's just really weighing on me, and I'm just waiting to see if I get a new job or not." And I go, "Oh, okay." I go, "Well, if there's anything I can do for you, let me know. I just want to make sure you're doing okay."
That's awesome.
Because that means a lot.
Yeah.
The younger me would have never done that.
Yeah.
The younger me would have been like, that's your problem, dude. But I believe our job is to serve people. And I think as I'm getting older, I'm getting better at that.
Yeah.
And I think too many people are transactional. They do things because there's something in it for them.
For sure.
And that's not the right way to live your life. And the kindness you throw back in the world will always find a way to come back to you.
Hey, speaking of you and I exchanged some text about 3-4 days ago. There's been some people struggling to get bats around the country, I guess. And and I saw you tweet. Yeah, I saw you tweet out about that. Yeah, we're recording this in February 2022. There's some supply chain issues if you're listening to this in the future. And I ended up having somebody hit me up out of Canada, and I said, "Well, listen, I don't know if Logan was specifically trying to get bats to colleges that are starting up next week, but I'll connect the two of you." And then I kind of connected y'all and went back to you and said, "Hey, man, I don't know if you can help him or not. I don't know if you were intending to try and help this other travel ball guy, but and boom, bang, boom. He said you're helping. You said you're helping, and that's beautiful. Hey, I got to take 5 seconds and throw the puppy outside because he is driving me bananas. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah, no problem.
And I'm back. Hey, live TV for you right here, huh?
Yeah, man. I was going to start singing, but then I didn't figure all your viewers would hang up. The bat deal. We have a pro shop. We have great vendor partnerships and stuff, and so people were just DMing me on Twitter. "Hey, our college season starts, our high school season starts. We don't have any bats. Can you help us out?" And so we just made some calls to help some people out. And and then I guess you sent the guy from Canada to us, and so I just sent him to Alex, who runs that stuff for us, and I think we got bats to all these people. So at least they got bats. It's supply chain's crazy, man. You're not going to have uniforms, you're not going to have bats, you're not going to have all kind of stuff. I feel bad for the kids.
It's it is. It's a big topic, not worth getting into today. But I know a guy who's locally. He's a sporting good rep, and I mean, a year ago he was. Helmets and it's things you don't even really, you don't pay too much attention to it until you can't get it. But the football team can't get enough shoulder pads. The baseball team can't get enough of the same belts. It's like little silly things like that. So it's like, what a pain.
Well, because of the other companies I own, we're aware of the global impact of supply. So long story short, I just told our staff, the Patriots, say, guys, you need to order everything. This is back in the fall. You need to order everything right now, or else you're not going to have it in the spring. So they ordered all this stuff back in the fall, and so we've got everything.
Just sitting around, waiting.
Well, side note too, for those listening, it's funny when people coach against me or they watch me coach, I'm an extreme competitor. But anything I can do for anybody, don't misunderstand my competitiveness for meaning I don't care about somebody else. I think a lot of times people get very misunderstood just because they have an insane competitive drive, and I certainly have an insane competitive drive. But if anybody needs help with anything, just reach out to me. I'm always happy to help and give advice or whatever.
You've already mentioned, you can tell by the language you use, you've referenced businesses. You have multiple businesses, which will hopefully help you answer this next question. What's the one piece of advice you'd give someone that's just thinking about starting up either whether it's a travel ball organization or a team, or maybe a physical location as a facility?
That's a loaded heavy question.
Well, you've opened a few businesses yourself. Hopefully you can.
Yeah.
Couple.
I don't know what I think I have an addiction. I don't know what my problem is. But here's what I would tell you. Just know this: anybody that owns a business, you don't actually own it; it owns you. So the second thing I would tell you is you need to have a strong purpose and why for doing it, and it can't be money. You don't do this because your goal is to make money, or else you're going to absolutely fail and be miserable. You have to do this because you truly have a passion for adding value to the game, and most importantly, adding value to kids' lives. Period. If you don't have those two passions, then you're doing something out of greed, ego, power, recognition, just the wrong reasons, and you'll burn out because you're going to get. There's a bunch of great parents, okay, but there's a lot of nut job parents, and even guys that played the game. They're not good youth sport parent dads or moms, right? And there's just a whole lot that goes with it. There's customer service. There's accounting. Nowadays there's IT. I mean, so there's a bunch of stuff I would tell you, but the main thing is just know why you're starting. Have clear core values in place. Right? Never violate those core values. And make sure you realize that being called coach is one of the greatest titles ever bestowed upon somebody. And with it comes a lot of responsibility for what you do, not only on the field or in the facility, but off the field too. And, you got to handle yourself, in a different way. But I'm in a different situation because I don't do it for the money. And so I'm able to do things that, that are different for guys that are doing it and they're doing it to make money. Yeah. Just remember you're getting into baseball, right? Yeah. And you don't do this to get rich. And if you are doing it to get rich, that won't last. It won't be sustainable. People don't want to join an organization because somebody's trying to make money. People want to join an organization because they want to have value added to them as a baseball player, right?
Your decision making changes when you are looking at a kid and he's going to help you pay the mortgage next month, or you're looking at a kid and you think he's going to be a great addition to the 14 other kids, and he's going to fit in well, and he's going to help us win ball games, and he's going to become a better ball player. But man, I'm telling you, when it's a paycheck, it's you make different decisions. You're making different decisions.
One thing I would say is you got to understand it's a business.
Yes.
And I think a lot of coaches, they're not business people per se. They just love baseball, so they're starting a baseball business.
Yeah.
You got to treat it like a business. I mean, we had a dad. We never got a refund. Well, your kid quit, right? So we had group workouts. Our rosters are done. Trials are done. There's a budget for every team, right?
Yeah.
And the dad calls me one day, very apologetic. Hey, my son decided he wants to play local with his high school friends. I'm like, okay. He goes, can we have a refund? I go, if we can find a replacement for your son, because we have to hit our team budget, then yes. If we cannot, then no, there's not a refund, because we already finished tryouts. He's already on the roster, and we have to meet our budget. And I'm saying all that because these parents will try to bully you around.
Yeah.
and they'll make threats. Listen to me. You will go out of business if you don't have a clear contract that clearly states, you turn this in, you're honored. I hear guys, well, we don't have contracts. If you don't want to be here, you can leave. Okay, great. You're going bankrupt.
Yes.
I'm just telling you.
Yes.
Or you're carrying way too many players on your roster, right? And so for us, we want to keep small rosters, and so guys are getting to play. And when you do that, you got to make sure the money you're bringing in, that budget is solid, and because you got to pay taxes and everything else too, depending on your own personal income situation. So you got to factor all that stuff in, and so make sure you have a good accountant. Make sure you lay out good, clear budgets, and then make sure that you realize. I saw a question on Twitter the other day. They said, "Why do you think there's so many kids in the transfer portal?" And there's a lot of answers to that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of answers.
Sure.
But one of the answers is this try it and move on mentality that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can look up a kid's history, and this kid is almost like he's played for 40 teams by the age of 16.
Yeah.
And so what these parents don't understand is you're teaching your kid to run from adversity. You're teaching your kid to not try to earn your way. And so what happens, I'm seeing it in the business world, and I've got with my other companies between full-time and part-time people, roughly 53,000 employees. It's unbelievable how people will just show up, and the one time they make a mistake or the one time something happens, they quit and they go try to find another job. That's not how you build a career.
Yeah.
And so what's happening is in this, just like I tell my kids. One of my kids, when he was like 6 years old, he didn't want to play soccer anymore. I said, well, buddy, you committed to this team.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to play for this team, and when the season's over, then we can reevaluate. But you are not quitting in the middle of the season because you don't like soccer.
Mm-hmm.
You should have thought about that before we signed you up for the team. Now, this is a rec soccer team. He's 6 years old,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So there's no money involved here. It may have been $50 to register him. I don't even know what it was. But that's a life principle my son learned at 6. And these parents, when you shelter your child from adversity, you're setting them up for failure in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're doing. And that's why I tell these coaches, man, don't support that. If a kid signs a contract, he agrees to be on your team, they pay their deal, and then he wants to back out for some random reason. Now, there's differences, right? If he gets hurt, something like that, yeah, give him a refund. He got hurt. But when it comes down to just, I want to play with my buddies, well, you should have thought about that before you agreed to play for us and we cut the other kids and replaced them with you.
For sure. For sure.
So, again, that's a life lesson. That's not just a baseball lesson. And coaches, that's a business lesson too, right? That's a business lesson. You got to stand by your stuff, or you're going to have a bunch of people that didn't pay their dues, and now you're trying to figure out a way to pay your light bill for your facility.
Yeah. I do see I see some people biting off a little more they can chew. I think from the facility standpoint is what I mean specifically, and they're getting these mega huge. And I'm like, man, you know what? My buddy who rents a cage from somebody else, and he's got lessons out the wazoo. He's going to take home more than this guy who quote unquote owns this mega facility because he's got an overhead issue. It's I don't know. It's
people make dumb decisions. Here's what I'll tell you. Your organization is going to grow because of the coaches and the way your coaches treat the players. That's how your organization is not going to grow because you have some beautiful facility.
Right.
And so we have a beautiful facility, but the facility is a byproduct of 23 years of doing what we've done, right? And so my whole philosophy is don't have something if you can't pay cash for it. And you're exactly right. What happens is these guys mean well, these ladies mean well, and they want a nice facility, and I totally get that.
Yep.
But there's a time and place for it, and you don't want to max yourself out where, like you said earlier, every kid is a way you're going to pay your light bill. We got to add another kid to the roster so we can pay for this.
Yeah,
that's not how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah. It's that last comment you made about paying with cash reminds me of a guy named Dave Ramsey.
Dave.
I'm a big fan. Hey, let me ask you this last question here, and I'm looking at the clock. I don't want to keep you too long, because this one I have a feeling might wind you up and get you going for a little while. If I gave you a magic wand here, and what one change do you think you could make to travel baseball that would have the biggest positive impact?
Oh my gosh, there's a million of them. The one change?
Well, give me a few of them.
Well, here's what I would tell you. There needs to be a core value in this industry where the kid is first, meaning what is in the best interest of the kids. And people wanting to make money, I get that. And there's tournament hosts and all kind of stuff making a fortune. What's happened is ego, gurus, all kind of stuff, has gotten in the way of what's best for the kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the kids are playing way too many games, way too many, in way too short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at 10-year-olds playing 3 tournaments at 5-6 games a weekend every month. That's absurd. And, when I was on the panel at South by Southwest in Austin, Game Changer had me, the president of USA Baseball, and Morgan Sword from Major League Baseball. He's the assistant to the commissioner of Major League Baseball. And they had us on there, and they're talking about all these arm injuries taking place with kids now. And they're saying, and their whole premise was, well, it's all these curveballs when they're too young. That's just not true. That's not true at all. Now, I'm not saying you should be throwing. We don't let our kids throw curveballs until they're 12. Okay, they can't spin anything. It's fastball changeups till you're 12 years old. But that's not why the arm injuries are happening, because kids have been throwing curveballs from the age of 8 for 50 years. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The reason all these arm injuries are happening is they're overusing their arms.
Yeah.
These kids from 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they're playing way too many tournaments. There's no arm care program. These kids are not prepared they're not coming into the season, getting their arm in shape for a month. There's just no preparation to get the arm in shape. There's no work during the season to keep the arm in shape. And so here's the example I would give you. A little kid throws 100 pitches. Stupid. Should never happen.
For sure.
His arm's fine. His arm's not bothering him. Okay? Here's what it's like. It's like we have a storm right now. Okay, in Dallas, a snowstorm. It's for Northeast people. It's a cool, nice, beautiful day. For Texas, it's an apocalypse.
Yeah.
Right. So here's the moral of the story. I'm sure after this storm, I'm going to go out in my front yard or backyard, and there'll be a broken tree limb. It'll happen, right?
Yep.
Well, guess what? That tree limb didn't break because of this storm. That tree, over the periods of storms that have happened in that tree's life, that tree limb has slowly just gotten weaker and weaker. That little tree limb's gotten weaker, and this just happened to be the storm, the pitch, the throw, that boom, the twig broke, right? And so, there should be a governor on how many games a kids can play, right? There should be a governor on how many pitches a kid can throw in a year. There should be a governor on who's allowed to coach these kids. It's absurd to me that there aren't mandatory background checks.
Yeah.
It's absurd to me that you got a guy, doing absolutely ridiculous stuff in prison for horrific stuff, and then the next day he's out of prison, he's coaching a 17-year travel baseball game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And so, and I'm not saying, listen, people make mistakes. We got to give people grace. People can learn from their mistakes. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you have people in this sport for one reason, and that's to make money. They don't belong here.
Right.
They do not belong here. And if you provide a great service, if you provide great value, yes, you deserve to get paid for it. Okay, don't misunderstand me. It's like when you go get your hair cut, that person's expecting you to pay for that haircut, right? And so people can make a living in this game. I'm not against that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's gotten out of hand.
Yeah.
Right? It should not cost $4,000 to be in a tournament. Right? It should not cost. There was a tournament for my 8-year-olds. An $850 gate fee, and it was $1,200 to be in the tournament for City Field.
That's bananas.
Right? It's ridiculous. And so, but the deal is, and I'm not bashing any organization for any. That's not what I'm saying. You asked me a very simple question, but it's a loaded question.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had a magic wand, what would I do? I miss the days where you didn't have to travel so much to play good competition. There's a lot of teams that are not select baseball teams. They're not. They call themselves select baseball teams.
Correct.
You have organizations that have way too many teams and way too many players. I actually said that on an interview, and somebody, I forget, it was ESPN or somebody was interviewing me, I forget, and they said, well, the Patriots are one of the largest organizations in the country. I said, says who? And he goes, well, that's just what I thought. I go, we have 30 teams. He said, what? I go, we have 30 teams from college down to 6-year-olds. 30 teams.
Yeah.
He goes, oh. I go, I don't want a bunch of teams.
Isn't that funny that the reputation that his for some reason he believed that, and I think a lot of people would have thought that you had 30 teams just at the high school age group, but you don't.
No, and we don't want to.
Yeah, it's an unusual stereotype that because y'all are a big name that people recognize across the country, that they just have this assumption that it must come along with large numbers of teams. That's pretty interesting.
That's not our goal. If we wanted 500 teams, we could. That's not our goal. And I'm not bad mouthing those that do. Okay, so please don't misunderstand me. There's big organizations that are doing it right, but there's a lot of them. If you've got a pulse and a checkbook, they're taking you.
Correct.
And that needs to be. That's just not right. And so. Again, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. You asked me a very honest question. Mm-hmm. I'm giving you a very honest answer, and I just go back to my original answer. We need to keep the kids the focus.
For sure.
If you can put your head on your pillow at night, knowing for a fact that everything you're doing is in the best interest of the kid, while at the same time, obviously, you got to stay in business, right? But everything's in the best interest of the kid, then you're good. If you can't put your head on your pillow at night and saying yes to that question, my challenge to everybody is go reevaluate some things.
Yeah.
Go correct some things. I can be honest. Listen, 23 years of doing this, when I first started it, I promise you I made the mistake of allowing too many teams. I did. I made that mistake. I've lived it. And more teams means more headaches. And I've done it. And then I cut 20 teams out of our program overnight, and I fired some coaches that weren't doing things the right way for the right reasons. And I tell you what, we've been more successful ever since.
Yeah.
More successful.
Incredible. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Hey, listen, I'm looking at the clock. Do you have any, parting words, anything you'd like to say to any coach, parent, player who may have hung around with us until the end here?
Yeah, if I can add value, if I can be of service to anybody, please let me know. It's really what we're all here for. I think if we can all just work I feel like I got a little negative on this, and that wasn't my heart. I was just trying to be very transparent with the answer. But listen, if we can all just work together for the betterment of the kids and the betterment of baseball, everything's going to be great. When we work against each other and we view each other as competition, we're just going to continue to perpetuate this toxic environment.
Yeah.
And the game is too beautiful. The kids are deserve better. And,
listen,
I think if all the good people will just do what we're supposed to do, everything will work out the way it's supposed to.
I don't think you came across as negative at all. And if anybody who thinks you're negative for saying that, because your answer to that last question was very simple, it's put the kids first. If that is perceived as negative, then I guess a lot of us are going to be perceived as negative. Yeah, it's over on Twitter at Logan Stout. Connect with him. He's a great follow. Drop some dimes over there on the social media, and go over to loganstout.com if you're a little bit curious about some of those other things he's got going on in his life. And I'll tell you, it's a lot. So listen, I appreciate your time. I want you to hang on for 2 more seconds. I'm going to stop the recording though. Don't hang up.